Good evening, Council. I'd like to begin by acknowledging that the land we inhabit today was the stolen land of the Gabrielino Tongva people, the original stewards of this land. For some time now, I've begun my public comments with this acknowledgement. Each time I have taken the time to reflect on those words, on that history, I am taken to the place of the ancestors and what that history speaks. The value of becoming part of the public record, no longer to be ignored. This week, I was reminded about how intimidating this space is, how our words are capped to 5 minutes, how our arguments can be rebutted without an ability to counter, how from the dais, the public can be attacked and not have the ability to defend oneself. These inherent inequities put a great responsibility on the council to listen, inform, and search out every stakeholder who is impacted by their decisions. Since 1977, the year I was born, the city of West Covina has banned the sale of alcohol from gas stations. In 2 weeks, the city council will attempt to once again overturn the ordinance. Councilman Johnson in the Tribune stated the argument clearly. We definitely need the revenue, and I think this would bring a good source of revenue. But is that true? As an economics teacher for the past 20 years, one of the fundamental lessons we teach is cost benefit. There are no win-wins. For every decision, a sacrifice is made somewhere. So what are we sacrificing? As a teacher for the past 20 years, I am acutely aware of the signs of physical abuse. Alcohol consumption is a major factor in violent crime, specifically domestic violence and child abuse. We know that accessibility to alcohol plays a role. As a mandated reporter, I have had to make those calls to protect children. During the pandemic, the numbers of reported abuse has dropped dramatically. No longer do children have the protection offered by school staff. No longer do many children have a voice. And yet here we are attempting to overturn an ordinance that no resident has clamored for, that does not provide a public good. This is a pro-West Covina business proposition. But which businesses? Is it Pacific Liquor, who will lose a large, substantial amount of their sales? Is it the 7-Eleven on Sunset, right next to an AM/PM that would be able to sell beer and wine? Again, when we talk about economic revenue, well, what about expenditures? How much will we have to spend in order to regulate these now 8 purveyors of alcohol? How much money is going to have to be spent for law enforcement when we talk about things like drunk driving, domestic abuse, violence? Again, those jobs that when we rehire police, that's not a single cost. That is a long-lasting cost. That's a pension obligation cost. That's millions of dollars into the future. For what? For what? For whose business? For whose incentive are we going to pass this? Again, for 50 years, businesses have come to West Covina with those rules. As a football coach, I understand rules and I play by those rules, and we believe those rules to be fair. After 50 years to change those rules, where I have done the research to open my business on Sunset, understanding that I can sell alcohol, I play by the rules, so I open next to this Arco. And then 50 years later, to have those rules changed on me, right? After all the blood and sweat, how I trusted the city of West Covina. I said, I am going to build my business here. Like the young man who opened his Chick-fil-A here, right? He read those rules. He said, West Covina is the place for me. Pacific Liquor, they said, West Covina is the place. Based on these rules, I can put my business here, next to this gas station, right? But here we are, when no resident has asked for it, we are going to change those rules. Please on September 1st, do what you've done for the last 50 years and keep the ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Next speaker is Michael Hyatt, followed by Jim Grivich.